Hi, everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of Destination Truth, where today we're going to talk about useful idiots, namely, amongst other things, as well as Hillary voters, as well as socialists and communists. But most of all, the video is about why communists and socialists and Hillary voters are basically idiots. Yes, that might be a little offensive, but I don't feel I have anything to really apologize for, considering the only actual communists on this planet, the 0.0001% of people who identify with communist beliefs, who want communism worldwide, everywhere, are actually the communists that benefit. You see, with communism, it's not a uprising of the masses, of the underclass. It is not a movement for the people, by the people. No, in fact, it is a movement by the people for the global elitists that want you to be slaves and don't want any competition. You see, if they don't have to deal with competition, they just become filthy rich. Everyone who is a debt slave or a slave in the more literal sense, they get hardly anything. And with communism, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, you still basically get hardly anything compared to what your true abilities can get you. So let's just say you are born into a poor family and you're very intelligent. Chances of you being paid more than the other guy is very slim. So going to school and becoming a doctor to use that intelligence you have is basically a waste of your time. You might as well be a mechanic or something like that. Nonetheless, what does A equals B, B equals C, C equals D, A equals D mean? Well, if these are all true, then A does equal D, and I'm going to show you my my legend here. So I think this is actually relatively accurate. You see, communists win currently, socialists and socialism is winning in the West because of two reasons. One, globalist elites have more money than 50% of the planet combined. So something like 40 people, individuals on planet Earth, control more than 50% of all the wealth in the world. And if you include the top 1% of the planet, just 1%, which is, something in the millions of people, because there are billions of people, that's millions of people, but nonetheless, the top 1% does still control 80% of all the world's assets. 80%. So, 1%, I mean, you understand that those people have immense wealth, and with that kind of wealth, they can do a lot of things that they see fit to do with it with, right? In other words, let's say you are extremely wealthy and you're like, you know what? I don't like competition. How do I reduce competition? You might start rubbing shoulders with some really, really wealthy people, maybe even some bankers because of how wealthy you are. And those bankers might steer you into another group of people who are elitists. Maybe you'll even meet a Clinton, and you'll realize that they are actually for communism. They're for socialism, and that's because communism benefits the 0.001%. Let's talk about Russia. So when Russia was supposedly communist, you realize that it wasn't actually ever a movement for the people, by the people, because it didn't help the people. What it did help is make about less than 1% of the population immensely wealthy. They are the Russian aristocracy, as it is called, and that's because those people have assets that they control, and whoever's at the top has to use these people because they need them. And as long as those people who have assets or something of worth, let's say it's oil or something, then the entire aristocracy is benefiting, right? So, in other words, let's just say Vladimir is his name, not Vladimir Lenin, but some guy named Vladimir owns, let's say, I don't know, 5,000 acres of Russia, and within that land is a bunch of oil. Then the aristocracy and the communist government is benefited by having him actually participate and be benefited by the entire communist system. So in other words, to the little guys, the slaves, it looks like everything is shared, but in reality, behind the scenes, all of the land and wealth and everything is controlled by a small number of people who share it for the most part, but nonetheless, it is sellable. In fact, some giant amount of land in the Ural Mountains that had oil was sold to New York bankers during the Soviet era. So that's proof that it's not actually shared by the people for the people of Russia. It is actually controlled and owned by an aristocracy. To even further that point, believe it or not, John Rockefeller took a vacation once upon a time to Russia, and during about the end of the first week he was in Russia, Gorbachev, who was on vacation, was told to come back to Russia because Gorbachev was fired. And that was while John Rockefeller was visiting in the Kremlin. So this is basically getting into the whole communist conspiracy theory, but it's not really conspiracy theory. It's more like fact that communism is ran by globalist elitists who have immense wealth and don't like competition and don't like having to take good care of the slaves. And just remind you, you are a slave if you have voted for any of these things, whether you voted for Hillary, whether you vote for socialist agendas or communism. These things are all just to enslave you more and more every day. At the current point in time that I'm making this video, I'd say that just about every U.S. citizen, unless you are in the top 10% of wage earners, you don't know enough information about tax-free foundations and such to understand that this country is currently serving the top 10% even now, even though it's super socialist, and they want you to believe that, oh, you know, we're passing all these amazing laws that are going to make a safety net for the little guy so that he doesn't go broke and lose everything. That's what they want you to think. So there's a welfare system so that you can feel good about what you do and that you are taking care of other people and the government is for the people. But the thing is, the tax burden of that money that's needed for the welfare is actually on the middle class and the underclass, the poor people, because all of the super wealthy elites don't actually pay taxes. In 2010, I believe it was 2010, but John D. Rockefeller, one of his tax returns was actually leaked, and he had paid only a few $100s in taxes because all of his wealth was in tax-free foundations and offshore banks. And he's a globalist, so he's got businesses all over the world. So to basically nail him down and tax him is extremely difficult. So it's really cute whenever the Democrats pretend that they can just continue to tax the top 1% as if that's going to work, because what they're really doing is actually taxing the top 1% of the middle class, so the upper middle class. That's who they're taxing. And those guys own usually medium to small businesses. And so when that happens, those people typically close down shop or just move to another country if they are mobile. So unless they've been here for a long time, they usually just move on. But if they've been here a long time, they have a good chance of moving into the upper class and using tax-free foundations and learning how the banking system actually works and realizing that this country is close. It's closer to being communist or extremely socialist than it is to what it actually says it is, which is a constitutional republic, right? So if you voted for Hillary Clinton, I know you probably had all the best intentions at heart, but you don't actually know what you're voting for. And you don't know that Hillary is a warmonger, nor you probably don't know that she is a puppet of globalist elites who have immense wealth and control her. We know this because Saudi royalty invested millions of dollars into her, as well as Rockefellers, as well as George Soros, who almost single-handedly kind of controls the Clintons as though they're his personal mouthpieces. So if you're wondering why all this political upheaval is underway and why the mainstream media continues to create all kinds of disagreement and vitriol among citizens of the United States, it's because they want you to literally feel as though while a Democrat is not in office, times are bad. Even if economically times are getting better. So they want you to think and feel like times are bad, no matter what. So, you know, we see these articles like CNN had something like, they stated an article saying it is your patriotic duty to ruin Thanksgiving by bringing up Trump. Like, that is bringing up, let me actually find that article for you right now. All right, so I had it off. It was actually GQ, but I found two other articles, one of which was by CNN, that did post things similar to this, which is, it is your civic duty to ruin Thanksgiving by bringing up Trump. This article is still easy to find, posted November 21st, 2017, and yeah, that's despicable. CNN went a step further and got a little panel of 6 people who I guarantee was carefully curated so that they'd say things along the lines of, oh yeah, I can't talk politics because of Trump. And, you know, it'll ruin everything if I do that. But they basically motivate them to actually do so anyway. I'll just fast forward to a random clip in the middle.
Thanksgiving is coming up. How many of you expect to have conversations about politics or President Trump at your Thanksgiving Day table? You won't. You say they won't let you talk.
I won't eat.
So. Politics at our Thanksgiving dinner.
There are others that are not, and that's sometimes we've had to put that off limits.
You know, we've got a few that are on the other side, but in my family, everyone's really open-minded. We exchange ideas, and we're always respectful. Anytime you have a respect.
Hey, this woman right here is probably, I already watched the whole video, but I was going to say, this woman right here might be a legitimate Trump supporter. I don't know, but nonetheless, she seemed nice. And lastly, here's another one, Politico, how Donald Trump ruined Thanksgiving, just pretty much reiterating what GQ wrote and agreeing with it. Nonetheless, we've had enough of this. I'm going to close that down. Point being, everyone, is the left is clawing and scratching for power right now. And Trump recently, this is recent news, with Trump making this giant... sorry, what I meant to say was bringing up Trump's omnibus spending bill, and that spending bill is maybe potentially going to kill the Republican Party for, I don't know, the next decade, because the one of the few things that his campaign was almost guaranteeing his voters was that the spending would finally stop and that we would start getting the economy going in the right direction. And this omnibus spending bill sounds huge and not in the right direction. So he probably won't win in 2020, and I guess it's fortunate that a whole video I made, there's probably 30 minutes I made like a month ago, called Trump Wins 2020, failed to upload 4 times in a row. YouTube, you probably know something about that I don't. Anyways, yes, I'm going to conclude this video a little rapidly and just say that if you voted for Hillary, you don't know much of anything about why you voted for her other than the mainstream news wants you to. And there's a whole bunch of propaganda saying Trump was racist, yada, yada, yada. A lot of this stuff was false, utter lies. And you're still convinced that the mainstream media is right because you are a slave and you are incapable of actual thinking on your own. So you're a useful idiot. That's what you are, guys. If you voted for Hillary, you're a useful idiot. You're basically the same as a socialist or even a communist, even though you would never agree to it maybe overtly, but you've been subverted. You have been brainwashed. You have been convinced that you want socialists to win for a reason you don't even understand yourself. So, yeah, guys, communists, by and large, are idiotic. And the reason I call this communists are stupid is because communists don't understand objective reality. They don't understand, I'm talking about 99+% of the communists, not the actual benefactors of communists, who are the only people on planet Earth that actually should be communists because they want to benefit by it. Everyone else doesn't benefit by communism. No one does. Just look at the Eastern Bloc of Germany. Just look at Russia. Look at Mao's China. Vietnam for a short time, Cuba. Communism doesn't help anyone. Neither does socialism. Look at Venezuela. For a short amount of time, Venezuelans had the 4th highest earnings per capita in the world, and their the statistic was, I think their standard of living was something like 8th in the world for a while, and now look at them. Socialism's taken over. Their president is basically a communist dictator, so you can call it a mock communism as well. And literally even his political allies have to use political means to get food on the table. Yeah. Communism doesn't work. Objective reality has proven so time and time again. If you believe in communism, if you call yourself a socialist or a communist, I think you are an idiot. You don't understand history, nor do you understand economics. You only understand what the mainstream media and your professors in these socialist schools have been telling you, which is to think otherwise is racist in and of itself. And you are thinking entirely in a world of race versus race. You are inherently more racist than me, who does not think about race when making certain decisions or comparisons. I have to do that because I have to stoop to your level just to talk about you people. Nonetheless, the most important thing to denote here is that communists don't understand, still to this day, they're so naive about actual world history that communism has killed more people than the Second World War, or almost the entire First and Second World War combined, if you compare Mao's China with communist Soviet Russia. If you combine those two countries, killing sprees of their own people due to famine and gulag systems, or a gulag archipelago, if you will, then you would know that those two countries alone killed more of their own people than anyone that died, including civilians, during World War I and II combined. Okay, so if you don't know that, you are an idiot. And if you support communism because of all those warm, fuzzy feelings that the socialists tell you, the mainstream media tells you, you are a useful idiot. And if you're a part of Antifa, you are a useful idiot because you are pushing their agenda and you don't even understand it yourself because you will not benefit from it. You will only hurt everyone within your society that is not in the top 1% of society. Even wealthy people in the top parts of the middle class, they will be drastically punished. Even farmers that do well, they will become the kulaks, and they will be sent to gulags, and they will be killed because they did too well. You're not allowed to do well. See, that's what happens. And in communism, when there's no incentive to do well, you don't do well. You don't even try. And that's what happened in the Eastern Bloc of Germany and Russia. People got lazy. Unsurmountable and uncountable amounts of sorry, I'm getting a phone call. What I was trying to say was that communism always creates innumerable inefficiencies, and just over time people stop working because effectively they're working because there's a gun to their head and not because they want to put food on the table for their family. If all that's taken care of, then they do what the Russians joke about, which is they pretend to work and they pretend to pay us. That's a real joke. Anyway, yeah. If you are curious about what I'm talking about and you don't understand it fully, I ask you to leave a comment, contact me. I would love to make a video precisely either explaining what your question is about and rebutting it, or if you like, I will gladly debate you over what you have to say, because the thing is, although communism sounds great on paper, I just know for a fact that it doesn't actually work within the realm of objective reality, because communists don't understand the most important thing: human nature. I'm going to end the video here, guys. Communists don't understand human nature because they themselves are just brainwashed, useful idiots. The only real communists that exist out there are globalist elites that control billions and billions of dollars of wealth, and they are using the mainstream media to convince you that you should be a slave, and you will like it. You okay with that?